documenting a DJ's path from analog blades to digital waves, sculpting sound since the early 80s, with a crate full of 70s grooves. There was a time when the 12-inch vinyl single was marketed as a DJ's secret weapon. But too often, those remixes were just extended marketing gimmicks. The energy was off. The edits felt disconnected from the original hit. So I took matters into my own hands, just like I'd been dreaming of since the days when I wore out 70s records, imagining what I'd fix if only I had the gear. Before I ever touched a splicing block, I was already building versions in my head, rehearsing transitions no one else could hear yet. Once the gear arrived in the early 80s, the backlog of ideas poured out fast. My first edits were the 70s tracks I had memorized down to the breath between verses. Getting those edits onto vinyl was another story. Pressing your own records was nearly impossible unless a studio owed you favors from late-night rescues or unpaid hours. Otherwise, it was prohibitively expensive. For me, each pressed record became a hard-earned tool, more like a secret weapon than a vanity project. Back then, when turntables had wood paneling and DJ booths smelled like cigarette smoke, editing was tactile. On my 2-track reel-to-reel tape recorder, you didn't drop loops. You dropped blades. You measured with your ears and committed with your hands. There was no undo. You heard the splice, you felt the punch-in, and you lived with it. Mistakes weren't deleted. They were endured. You either trusted the crowd wouldn't catch that 16th note flinch or sighed deeply and rewound the whole session to try again. Tape wasn't cheap, especially at high speeds where fidelity came at a premium. Every edit was a gamble of time, craft, and budget. But that pressure shaped the product and the person behind it. Every reel demanded presence and respect. It was a dojo with razor-thin margins and pure truth as the reward. By the early 90s, I had nearly a decade of custom edits behind me and a growing need for portability. As computers crept into the workflow, a new phase began. You could digitize your edits, export them as WAV files, and burn them to CDs straight from your studio. No pressing plants, no test pressings, just you, your burner, and a Sharpie. It was liberating, mostly. CD skips became the new vinyl warps. A fingerprint or scratch could derail a set. Still, the ability to create a tangible, portable version of your digital work gave you control without compromise for a while. Then came the revolution, software DAWs, digital audio workstations. For someone raised on analog tape, this felt like stepping through a portal. Suddenly, your edits weren't final. They were fluid. You could save a take, walk away, return weeks later, and rebuild it entirely. You could redesign a track for a gig, reshape a transition for a radio mix show, or rebuild a drop so it wouldn't sound identical 2 weeks later. No tape to waste, no blades to dull, no pressure to get it right on the first pass. Digital tools opened the hood on the music itself. You could break a track into stems, clean up flawed mixes, boost buried elements, or lower the noise floor to let the groove breathe. You could reimagine entire songs, balancing them for modern systems or stripping them back to something raw and timeless. And then came the power to remaster. 70s tracks that had never been touched since their original pressings could now be revived, dynamics restored, stereo widened, harshness tamed. It wasn't just editing anymore. It was restoration, reinvention, preservation. But with infinite freedom came a new discipline, knowing when to stop. Analog constraints defined completion. Digital tools removed those boundaries. Now the only limit is your own restraint. My old edits lived in vinyl crates and CD cases, heavy, fragile, precious. Now they live on USB sticks. No pressing, no burning, no fear of skips. Just plug in and go. Whether you're DJing with software or CDJs, the music flows directly. No middlemen, no middle format. It's the triumph of portability. But the ceremonial weight of dropping a record has been replaced by the silent efficiency of loading a file. What once felt like unveiling a relic now feels like managing a playlist. Still, with intention, even a WAV file can become a work of art. The medium may have shrunk, but the responsibility to say something with it has only grown. Those DIY vinyl cuts were more than tracks. They were signatures, final, uneditable. You couldn't remake them without physically redoing the work. Now your work evolves with you. That can be freeing or paralyzing. If nothing's ever final, can anything ever be iconic? For me, the answer is intention. Technology doesn't define the art. The mindset does. Bring an analog soul into a digital space and you preserve what matters: craft, commitment, clarity. Every time I line up a beat in a DAW, I still hear the whisper of tape rolling behind it. And somewhere in that hiss, a version of me from the early 80s is queuing up a 70s cut for a second chance at perfection. Throughout this evolution, from splicing blocks to wave files, I've stayed true to one mission: building beats with purpose and soul. That mission continues today with my latest project, Rhythms Reimagine, a mix series that reinterprets my early edits, blends them with modern texture, and brings new energy to old-school sensibility. No skipping vinyl, no scratched CDs, just clean playback, custom transitions, and stories told through sound. If you've been nodding along with this story, you'll hear everything I've talked about baked into these mixes. Listen to Rhythms Reimagined DJ Mix Series on the DJ Andre Tejeda Radio Mix Show's channel on YouTube, and tell me which moment made you hit rewind. I'm also taking music requests for the next eclectic mix, so drop a track below in the comments that you'd like to hear in the upcoming session. From razor blades to right clicks, reel tape to thumb drives, the tools have changed everything. Except the core truth: the edit is only as good as the ears behind it. The mix only matters if the message is yours. And the soul of the track, it never lived in the format. It lives in the intention. If you want more stories like this, tap like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow.